say the Fatiha, please. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد، يقول الله في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا فتحنا لك فتحا مبينا صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. When last we were analyzing this event, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, and what had happened in some of the aftermath, we were analyzing all of these events from the Muslim perspective. And we saw that the Muslims had their ihram on, they had their teeth bared, basically they were angry. And eventually they did sacrifice their animals and they did shave their heads. Now on the journey back, we mentioned that they would be going through that same exact narrow, thorny, difficult patch of Hudaybiyah in order to get back to Asfan. Once they make it out of the clearing, we find that a lot of the Sahaba are embarrassed of what they've done. They're saying to themselves, this was still Rasulullah, we should have still listened to him. There's been a taqseer on our part. Among them, Umar ibn Khattab, who sees that he has raised his voice in front of Rasulullah. Now what's interesting is that Umar has not done this for the first time. This is at least his second time where he has raised his voice in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The first time was where he and the first Khalifa, the usurper Abu Bakr, were arguing in the presence of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as to how should the Banu Amr be converted into Islam. And you find that instead of these two coming to Rasulullah and asking for his opinion, they start having an argument amongst themselves of how best to bring Islam to these people. It was at that occasion that Jibreel came down with the ayah, لَا تَرْفَعُوا أَصْوَاتَكُمْ فَوْقَ صَوْتِ النَّبِيِّ. This is now the second time that Umar has done this. And what does that ayah end with? أَن تَحْبَطَ أَعْمَالُكُمْ فَتُصِيبُوا. Basically, the ayah basically says that if you do this, then all of your amal will become useless, and at the same time you will not have even realized that you have done such a thing that destroyed all of your deeds. Now, if prior to that point Umar ibn Khattab had any deeds that were good, then it's possible that already at that situation that necessitated an ayah being revealed down, it's possible that he's already lost all of his good deeds. All he's left with are his bad deeds. If you say no, this ayah is trying to say that if you do it again, then his deeds will all be basically obliterated, the good deeds at least, and he will only be allowed to keep his bad deeds. And here, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. You have him again, once again, raising his voice, this time not just in the presence of Rasulullah. This isn't fawqa sawt al-Nabi. This is fi wajh al-Nabi. This is in the face of the Rasul. If the odd khurafa from the Ahl Sunnah sources say that, oh yeah, he was forgiven. There is no, by the way, tawqifi hadith or ayah that says that Umar ibn Khattab got away with this, or that he was forgiven. They have to do some gymnastics with some of the ayat that we will be looking at today, because today will be the final portion where we actually look at the historical analysis and the geopolitical analysis. Now we will be going into the ayat of Surah Al-Fatih. If they want to do some kind of a tafsir, or even a tafsir bil-ra'i, that Umar ibn Khattab and the rest of the Sahaba were forgiven over here, even if we take that, is there another point in history where Umar ibn Khattab raises his voice at and in the presence of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Yes. This is something that Ibn Abbas calls Raziyatu Yawm al-Khamis. Raziyatu Yawm al-Khamis, what happens on this, was translated as the calamity of the day of Thursday. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam dies on a Monday. The Thursday prior to that, Rasulullah is on his final deathbed, and he asks for something to write on and something to write with. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And when he asks for this pen and paper, when he asks for this, whatever it is, the carving utensil and the what is this bone called again? This scapula. Yes, the scapula of a goat, whatever it is that he asks for, a pen and something to write on. Umar ibn Khattab once again raises his voice and causes a commotion. In fact, it seems from historical analysis done by Sunni historians, the likes of who? Farhan al-Maliki, who is currently in the Saudi prisons. He says that it seems Umar ibn Khattab came ready, knowing that Rasulullah had gathered the Sahaba for this purpose, to go and have something written, and everybody knew. It's even written in their sources, everybody knew that day that Ali ibn Abi Talib, forget about just being announced on the day of Ghadir, now it's going to be written down. There will be textual evidence for 1400 years from the hand of Rasulullah that Ali ibn Abi Talib was supposed to be the immediate successor after Rasulullah. Umar ibn Khattab knows that this is what's going to happen, brothers and sisters. So what does he do according to Sheikh Farhan? He says that he brought a band of people with him who were just given one task by Umar: make a commotion and disrupt whatever the Prophet is going to ask for. If he tries to get you to do bay'ah to Ali ibn Abi Talib, if he tries to, whatever the hypothetical situation is, write it down, something, disrupt it. Don't let it happen. And this is exactly what happened. Rasulullah was in such a upset mood after this happened that he told everybody, get out of this house. Get out of my house. One side is saying exactly what Umar had trained them to say, that hasbuna kitab Allah. The others are saying, let him write what he wants to write. Rasulullah sees that this ummah is not going to take the advice that he is about to give. They are not open to it. They are intent upon becoming divided. Rasulullah has done everything that he can possibly do. But when you have parties who want their interests served, and they're willing to, as we know, as we analyzed in the analysis of Surah Al-Tahrim, when I was here in Muharram, we know that Rasulullah was poisoned, was assassinated. And we proved this. There is not a single Muslim who can dispute this. This is within the sources of all Muslims. If they're willing to go to that extent, you think they won't give him a piece of paper and a pen? So even if we say that you want to go and play gymnastics, that at Surah Al-Fath, when the ayah was revealed that, okay, the Sahaba are forgiven, including Umar ibn Khattab, including Abu Bakr, okay, you want to say that they're forgiven? What about when they do it again? How many times are they going to keep on doing this? And how many times are you just going to keep on offering these lofty, prolific excuses, one after the other after the other? Yani after one time, it wasn't enough for you to learn لا ترفعوا أصواتكم فوق صوت النبي. It wasn't enough. You have to keep on making the same mistake again and again and again. You know, there's a method of raising children even. They say that it's not good to raise your children yelling at them. There's a method called verbalizing the baby, right? Now whether you think this is good, this is bad, the kid needs a belt, the kid needs a good pupper once in a while, whatever you think that, you know, the right way to raise the kids is, there's an interesting video of one parent raising their child, and this child went and, you know, they were pouring milk into a glass and the milk overflowed. They were playing with some glass or something, the glass broke. The parent didn't say anything. The kid has been, you know, taught to be treated like an adult. The next time that you see this kid dealing with milk, they're very careful as the milk gets to the top, and they stop the flow of the milk. Any type of glass that they're playing with, they're very, very careful, and they make sure that they don't break it again. The kid learns, even without you having to go and yell and scream and shout down this kid's throat. SubhanAllah, kids in the West can learn from their mistakes without wahi, if they're treated like adults. But it seems like some people who feel like they're fit for khilafah, no matter how many chances they're given in other schools of thought, we're not giving them the chances, other schools of thought, give them as many chances as they want. By the way, after Rasulullah, after Raziyat Yawm al-Khamis, does he stop raising his voice? Or a few days later when Fatima al-Zahra is behind the door and she says, I am the daughter of your prophet, do we see him raise his voice again, saying, so what? So what? Let you be inside the house, let anybody be inside the house. If you don't send us Ali to give bay'ah to us and to our government, we'll burn everybody inside, and we'll burn the house around you until you come outside. After how many chances are you going to finally, understand that this is not something that the Muslims, that Allah is going to tolerate? But yeah, subhanAllah, the history is such. The other day we were laughing. Today we should be crying that this is the likes of people that Rasulullah has to smile in front of. That the best of akhlaq has to be shown in his face. The types of people who Rasulullah knows, tomorrow after he's gone, they're going to betray Ali ibn Abi Talib. They're going to betray Fatima al-Zahra. They're going to betray Imam Hassan. They're going to betray Imam Hassan. After all, in Ziyarah Ashura, when we say, Man assasa asasa bunyanahu, the ones who went and put down the foundations, such that Karbala could happen, who else are we talking about? Who else are we talking about? Other than those who made it easy to go and do this to not only the Ahlul Bayt of Rasulullah, but Rasulullah himself. Time after time after time. Again and again and again. And so the munsif, the adil, the person who has objectivity, who is fair and balanced, we present these historical facts that are found in all of the books of the Muslimin, the history books, the hadith books, every single kind of book. All that we ask is you read the books and make a good decision before Yawm al-Qiyamah. This is your akhirah we're talking about, brothers and sisters. And we say this with respect, with dignity, but we say that, look, if you want us to unite on kufr or nifaq, then we say nothing. We want to unite on haqq. What is haqq? Other than Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. that in the final few moments that we have today. We unfortunately started late. We did not have enough people to start, but alhamdulillah we have enough people. What did the other side of this treaty, how did they see all of the happenings going? We've been analyzing through snippets, through windows, analyzing how the Quraysh have been seeing this. Now let's give the whole entire analysis from the Quraysh and the Meccan and the Kuffar perspective. They see that some small 1,000 amount of people are coming towards Mecca when just last year we had 10,000 at their doorstep. This is going to be easy. So they start off thinking that it's going to be easy. This is going to be people that we can immediately take care of and we'll get rid of them. They're not even trying to hide that they're coming from
This is
the
last night donation and also Alishan Hours membership. I think he already did his son did his name.
He will ambush Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He will ambush.
He said he does it every year.
Start here.
Ali Alshinawa family.
Then you see that the tribes who have no right talking to Rasulullah before Quraysh talks to Rasulullah, they're talking to Rasulullah. This is an insult to Quraysh. Then they come and say that, hey, Rasulullah is not asking for something that is out of the ordinary. This is something that is reasonable. And by the way, we also come for Hajj. What are you going to do to us if you're treating other Hajjaj like this? What is this? Quraysh is slowly losing support. Their sister city, the other metropolis, Faqif, also comes and tries to negotiate. They're not able to go and make headway with Rasulullah in the negotiations. They come back to the Quraysh and say that Rasulullah is offering you a good plan. I've never seen loyalty like this. They are respecting him, the likes of which no Asabiyya, no Qurayshi clan is going to give you this kind of support. You better let him do what he wants to do and then just let him go on his way. Now even their sister city of Ta'if, they do not have the same respect that they once did with Quraysh. Quraysh is isolated. When Rasulullah started his journey, I want you to imagine on a map, you know those maps that have colors, right? Like Pakistan is green, India is purple, or whatever, right? Imagine that Medina and the Muslims are, let's say, yellow. And Quraysh and their influence, their allied forces are, let's say, red. Right? The red is much larger. It's not all the way up to Medina, but it's considerable. There's many tribes that are around the skirts of Mecca, the outskirts of Mecca, that have allegiances towards Quraysh. Why? Because their gods are housed in the Kaaba. As soon as they attack or they let go of any of the points of their treaty with Mecca, whose gods are going to be targeted? That tribe's gods. None of those tribes have any treaties left with Mecca. So now what does Rasulullah do? Now that all of the influence of Medina has completely swarmed over and taken over the region, the yellow has completely over-dominated the red. The red is a tiny little dot within Mecca itself, Mecca proper. Now what does Rasulullah do? Rasulullah says that we are going to go tribe by tribe by tribe and say, look, if Quraysh was willing to go and put pen to paper, I think you can take us. Why couldn't Rasulullah, by the way, take on any of the Jewish tribes that went against the treaty they had with Rasulullah? Why couldn't Rasulullah go against any of the other tribes? Even if some of them were coming and they were doing small little battles, and because the resources are all focused on Mecca. Once Mecca is locked up behind a treaty, now you can go and deal with everybody else. He comes to the tribes of the Jews, he comes to the tribes of Arabia, and he says, if Quraysh was willing to do this, what do you want to do? Want to put pen to paper as well? Or do you want to face us? Because you'll be next, we'll take you on. Two results happen, brothers and sisters. I mentioned a possibility of a third, that either people allied with the Quraysh, or people allied with Muslims. But that's not what happened. I'll tell you what happened. Either people allied with Rasulullah and said, okay, well, if Quraysh was willing to go and put pen to paper, we'll go and sign a treaty with you too. We're not going to go into Are you serious? The 1400 that you have right now, that's probably bigger than our whole Qabila. Either that, or they said, okay, this is between you and Quraysh. Can we stay Switzerland about this? We don't want to enter into it. Just let it be between you guys. We're going to stay out of this. Now, Rasulullah has a 10-year peace treaty with the Quraysh. Muslims are safe. Other tribes are starting to recognize Muslims. And the Muslims are safe. All of this will change for the worse for Quraysh in about 18 months. Why? Because a few people, Abu Basir was the first of them, he came towards Medina. Comes towards Medina, and then the treaty said that if we come asking at Medina's doorstep, we want this person back, you have to give it back. Give that person back. Abu Basir comes, and what happens? Rasulullah is bound by the treaty. He says, okay, we'll give him back. Two people take Abu Basir, and they're on their way back to Mecca. On the way, a conversation starts happening. We mentioned this a couple of nights ago, saying they started discussing about the sword. Eventually he's like, hey, can I touch the sword? Can I touch the hilt on the sword? Takes the hilt of the sword, beheads one of the guys, and now he's chasing the second person who was his captor, chasing him all the way, but unfortunately this guy, unfortunately for him, he runs in the wrong direction. Instead of running towards Mecca, where he's safe, he runs towards Medina. Ends up coming to and facing Rasulullah, and he's out of breath. So he's with his eyes asking Rasulullah, what are you going to do? This guy is, you said that we could go and bring him back. What are you going to do? Rasulullah is now in a diplomatic, we would call it a pickle. If I give him back again, if I say that, I've already given him back once. There's nothing in the treaty that says I have to give him back a second time. Thaniyan, a second thing is that I don't want to give him back, he's a Muslim. Thirdly, at the end of the day, what am I going to say though, in the face of this Qurayshi? I can't advocate for him being killed, that's not right. But if I let him go, he's going to tell the Quraysh that Rasulullah broke the treaty, and Rasulullah, if nothing else, remember, when the treaty of Imam Hassan was signed, even after Imam Hassan died, all of the points of the treaty were flouted, flagrantly flouted. Imam Hussein still stuck to the terms of the treaty. Because this is Ahlul Bayt. This is how they work. Just because he's going to break the treaty doesn't mean that we're going to break the treaty. Allah is still the judge. He's going to ask us about this treaty. Imam Hussein is not going to break the treaty. Rasulullah now needs to do something quick. And subhanAllah, the hikmah of Rasulullah, without saying a word, with his eyes, he communicates to Abu Basir, you can't stay here. Without saying a word, he says you can't stay here. The Qurayshi is happy. He's going to go back to Mecca and say that, okay, Rasulullah is still honoring the treaty. It's this one guy, he can't go and control the hands and willpower of this man. So Rasulullah is still in line with the treaty. He's been told you can't come back. This guy has the sword though. So with what power is he going to go and force him to come to Mecca? They go their separate ways. He comes back and says the treaty is still on. Yeah, we weren't able to get Abu Basir, but Rasulullah still honored it. He sent us with him. Abu Basir now goes to a place west of Medina. He sets up a camp over there. He starts sending letters towards the people who he knows have converted within Mecca. Surah Al-Fath will go and call this Bibatni Mecca. In the belly, in the heart of Mecca, there are people who have converted, but the Muslims at large in Medina, they don't know that these people are recent converts. They've been talking, they've been thinking, hey, Rasulullah is not here anymore, but hey, he had some pretty good, points and everything. Not killing the baby girl and honoring your parents. This is all good stuff. He writes these letters and saying, Medina is no longer safe. They are under a treaty. They will have to send us back. Come instead over here. We'll set up a second Muslim society. 80 people come over here. And what these 80 people do to Abu Sufyan and his caravans is they wreak havoc. Absolute havoc on the caravans of Abu Sufyan. Every single trip that they are making for the next 18 months, these 80 people who are so frustrated, number one, because they were being tortured inside Mecca. Number two, because they can't be with Rasulullah and the rest of the Muslims. They have to go and set up this other community of Muslims And they want to go see Rasulullah, but as soon as they see Rasulullah, these people are waiting to just, diplomatically remove them from Medina and bring them back to Quraysh and back to the life of torture. So what do they start doing? They start going and wreaking havoc on Abu Sufyan's caravans. Abu Sufyan eventually comes to Rasulullah and he says, these 80 people, please, we don't want them to keep. We don't want them. Just erase this part of the treaty, we don't even want it. SubhanAllah, what the Muslims were once upon a time ferocious over, about to relinquish their La ilaha illallah over, now it's coming back to bite Quraysh. And we'll analyze how Allah's commentary in Surah Al-Fatih comes and comments on this. But the point is, remember that yellow and the red? How yellow ended up dominating the entire political map? The Muslims don't even realize that as Abu Jandal is being taken away by his father Suhail ibn Amr, they don't even realize that as they're so unhappy with all of the terms of the treaty that has been signed, they don't realize that as they're disobeying Rasulullah, as he's saying, stand up, sacrifice your animals, shave your heads, they don't realize that as they're disobeying him, they are now the superpower in the area. Everyone fears the Muslims. In fact, we'll analyze this, we're out of time now, we'll analyze this tomorrow. That actually Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, before the go ahead. Let's go ahead and make a second salawat. And I'm going to be waiting for the third loudest salawat after I make this point. After I make this point. That Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as he was showing who's boss to the Quraysh, who does he say that if you don't straighten up and send me someone worthy, who will I send into Mecca? He says, I will send you Ali ibn Abi Talib. Brothers and sisters, when I was telling you that Umar ibn Khattab and Uthman ibn Affan, they're being sent over here. Why are they being sent? Because they don't have any blood on their swords. At one point, you go and advance these pieces of the game to go and show that, look, we don't mean you any harm, we're just trying to talk. But when you come and show your teeth bared like this, you come and knock out these teeth with the likes of Ali ibn Abi Talib. This is when you go and put Ali ibn Abi Talib out in front. You don't go and reveal your hand at the beginning of the negotiations. You save him till the end. So brothers and sisters, the Muslims are now the superpower in the Arabian Peninsula. Quraysh is basically, as we recited on the Laylat al-Qadr, the house of the Ankabut. They are so frail, so fragile, that if a sneeze comes their way, they'll fall like a house of cards. There's not much left. It's a matter of when, not if, Quraysh will fall. And indeed, Quraysh, before Rasulullah is dead, is completely knocked out, and Rasulullah has control over Mecca once again. Inshallah, tomorrow we will continue our analysis of. Now we are done with the geopolitical analysis, we are done with the historical analysis, we are done with the lead up all the way up until the Battle of Hudaybiyah. Now we will begin, inshallah, tomorrow with Inna Fatahna Laka Fathan Mubina. But it does not do justice to the surah that I just say that this was revealed after the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. You need to have been there and walked through that treacherous valley with the thorns and the blistering feet and all of that. You need to have been there through the roller coasters of emotions through the past few nights for you to realize why Rasulullah says about this surah that I love this surah more than anything that the sun shines on in creation. With that, brothers and sisters, we will conclude here for tonight, and we will pick up with the actual surah tomorrow. بإذن الله تعالى. هذا وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.